We'll give it another few minutes for as folks get in. All right, well, I think I'll get started. Welcome everyone to the 98th annual members meeting of the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area. See if I can, there we go. I'm Robin Schmidt and have been honored to serve as president of this league for the last year. Tonight, we're excited to hear from Onalaska Mayor Kim Smith about servant leadership, what it means to her, and how she brings us to the community. After Mayor Smith's address, we're providing you with brief highlights of our local league's activities by the leaders and volunteers who've worked really hard to make this past year a huge success. On behalf of the board, I want to, it's just not me giving this presentation, but it's the whole board that is pulling together for our program. We want to recognize the retiring board members, as well as our partners and collaborators over this past year. And then we'll end the meeting with our general election on the 5 documents that you were previously emailed and that are included in our annual report. I hope you enjoy tonight's program on behalf of myself and all of the board members. It should be fun and informative. I wanted to put a slide in here, which I call Beyond Land Acknowledgement. I want to recognize that we're at a starting point now at the, from a league perspective as we advance DEI initiatives. But I want to recognize and acknowledge the tribal lands on which we live, work, and recreate. And I want to make a commitment to do more to embrace Native American history, culture, and importance to our community and to our league. So I just wanted to, I felt that this map was really informative and reflective of, you know, kind of where we are as a state and where we were as a state before I guess, I'm sure if I want to say took over the land that was held by Indigenous communities. But I think it's important to recognize the origins of Wisconsin. So on to our guest speaker. Kim Smith has served as mayor of Onalaska since 2019. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share so we can highlight Kim. She has served on the Onalaska City Council for multiple terms since 2004. She's an Onalaska native. Her husband, and her 2 adult daughters all graduated from Onalaska High School. Kim graduated from UW-La Crosse with degrees in geography and biology, and she earned a Master's of Arts degree in servant leadership from Viterbo University. She currently works as the food safety coordinator for City Brewing Company in La Crosse. And after Kim's talk, if we have a few minutes, we'll be able to take questions. If you have a question, want to type them in, you can. But I do want to note that Kim is, because she's not able to clone herself, that she's only going to be able to be here for a brief time because I know she has another commitment yet this evening. And I'm just really grateful that she was willing to take time out and talk with us for a short time this evening. So Kim, thank you and welcome. And we'll let you go ahead and start your program.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I was just really honored to be invited, and I see a lot of familiar faces in the virtual room. So hopefully when I share my story and a little more about servant leadership to you, hopefully it's not the first time you've heard of servant leadership in the La Crosse area. I think we're pretty more familiar with it than maybe in some other parts of the country. But I was elected mayor I was appointed mayor in 1999 to fill the term of the previous mayor. But then I was elected mayor of the city of Onalaska in the spring of 2020. And it isn't too hard to remember back that this was just as the COVID-19 pandemic was really becoming a reality. And so I began my term by issuing emergency orders and closing public spaces. And together with city staff and the other local elected officials, we really had to navigate our way trying to endeavor how to respect the governing bodies who had jurisdiction, even as that changed. We were trying to figure it out. And as the pandemic still continues in the weird way that it is, we still try to be mindful of the political issues while still acting on the evolving scientific evidence. And then if you can remember back, while we struggled to adapt to what life was like during a pandemic, violence erupted nationwide, causing us all to really reevaluate our worldview. And the commitment of our community's government to serve all of its people was never something I expected to question or even have to defend in my position. So when Robin asked me to speak here today, she requested that I highlight the importance of servant leadership to my life and my position as mayor. And our local Viterbo University, led by Tom Thibodeau, Rick Kite, and a bunch of others, really fosters a servant-led community here in the La Crosse area. But the master's program started at Viterbo in 1999, and it was really the first master's in servant leadership program in the entire world. The term servant leadership originated with Robert Greenleaf in the 1960s and 70s. He observed management at AT&T in an executive position, and then he went on to develop what he believed would be a more effective management style. And servant leadership really helps guide us on how we can bring our deepest values into our workplace. And the style, it's just really based on a simple test. Do those we serve grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And another way of thinking about this is, how will our decisions affect the least powerful among us, those people who have the least voice? And to paraphrase what Robert Greenleaf said many years ago, the prophetic voices are speaking now. They are challenging the pervasive injustices and taking sharper issue with the wide disparity in our institutions that exist to serve society. And like Greenleaf, I am hopeful for these times, despite the tension and the conflict, because we are listening. I am listening. And I hope that my contemplation of all perspectives helps blur the edges of righteousness that's so prevalent right now. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be a leader for our community and to share some of my story with all of you today. Is everyone hearing me okay? I know virtual is kind of weird because you can't get, I feel like a lot of people's screens are froze up. Robin, you're moving, but the other people aren't. Is that by design? Yeah. Okay. Robin is the only moving person in the audience. Okay, good. I'll just keep going. So I was recently introduced to a person that went on to almost apologize for not knowing me. She said she didn't know much about local government, but she did acknowledge that sometimes people knock on her door and ask for her vote. To her, all elected people, the elected people who represented her were just like one big crowd. We all look alike. And my experience is that this really isn't that uncommon. Even when people know who their mayor is, they probably don't really know what a mayor does. So I'm just going to go into that just a real super briefly. So the role of mayor does vary between communities, and in the city of Onalaska, the mayor is the chief executive officer. And so what that means is I oversee the executive branch of the local government, which is the branch that enforces the laws. So I directly oversee the police and fire departments. The chiefs are my direct reports. I make sure the city is following the state laws. I sign all the legal documents, and I represent our community in regional committees, and just am generally seen as the face of our local government. In my relationship with our common council, which I thought there was going to be at least one council person here today. I don't know if there is or not. I conduct the meetings and have the power to veto their actions. So the Onalaska Common Council exists of 6 elected members, 2 each from 3 districts. And the Common Council is the legislative body. So they're the ones that make the policy and the ordinances, which are the city laws for our community. And then we have a city administrator. My position as mayor is part-time, but the city administrator is full-time, and he oversees the day-to-day operations of the city, and he reports directly to the Common Council. So he has 6 bosses. Being any elected official carries a high level of accountability and sometimes very public accountability. And I think Robert Greenleaf would have said that in addition to having a good vision and trying to discern the best direction for our community, it's also our responsibility to explain how the common good is served by that vision and those actions. Greenleaf wrote, "Those holding power are no longer sufficiently trusted. All holders of power are suspect. All actions that stem from authority are subject to the question, who and how does this serve?" And they want to see clearly and unmistakably the means for making power legitimate for the common good. These words, so reflective of our current political climate, were written by Robert Greenleaf in the 1970s. As an elected official, my ability to successfully lead my community through complex current events depends on my ability to legitimize that power, to demonstrate that the trust that the community puts in me and expects of me is well placed. So how does a person become a mayor? It starts with the call to serve, like most things. Soon after I was elected as mayor, I was a guest speaker at the local Cub Scout group. I love talking to groups, if you didn't notice. The kids had great questions, and one asked me, what traits made me a good mayor? I hadn't been a mayor very long then, but I replied, what traits make a good scout? Does anyone here know what the traits are of the Cub Scouts? Does anyone know? Well, I'll tell you what they are. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. So these little Cub Scouts proudly cited all of these traits. And I said, those are the traits that make a good mayor. You know, they were so proud. And hopefully someday they'll see the connection in their life. We're starting out as a Cub Scout and then going on to serve in their adult lives. So I really would send you a message that, you know, wherever you serve, that's where you build your capacity to serve. You have to listen to your own calling. We each have to find our own path. In finding my path, my first job after college was as a crew leader for the Wisconsin Conservation Corps. I don't know if you've heard of that or not, but it was a branch of the state government, and it was created by then Governor Wisconsin Tommy Thompson and modeled after the Civilian Conservation Corps. So what we did is we employed 18 to 25-year-olds who were unemployed, and then we contracted with communities to complete work in parks and natural resources. And so in the completion of my job, I developed relationships with people in various levels of state government, coming all the way down to the local level. And then in helping my crew members, who I had 6 crew members, I helped build relationships with many of the area service organizations, because we took time out to teach them things like, how do you balance a checkbook? How do you prepare for a job interview, so that we could give these young adults a boost into the next part of their life. So this was in the early 1990s, and we didn't have cell phones. And periodically I would need to call into Madison to report to the main office there on the square. And City Hall at that time was much more compact than what it was now. I don't know if y'all can remember that, but it was a little bit different back in the 1990s. So for those calls, I used the desk of then Mayor Shirley Van Riper. And our crews, we worked outside. I mean, that's what we did. We were out in the parks and the woods. And I specifically remember feeling really embarrassed because when I went into City Hall to call Madison, they had me use the then Mayor Shirley Van Riper's desk, as I said. And so no matter how much I had wiped my feet when I came in the door, you know how it is in the winter, I'd get to his desk and sit down, and the snow would start to melt off the treads of my boots and leave little puddles all around the desk of the mayor of the city of Unalaska. And so I was always very self-conscious when I saw him. But he was good-hearted, and he never called me out on it, either that or he just didn't notice. I don't know. But as I look back, I just see myself as an unrefined hoyden. Like later, I did learn where the mop room was, and I cleaned up after myself when that happened. But those are part of my earliest memories of Onalaska City Hall and the mayor of Onalaska. But I think that really plays a role in why I always try to make people feel comfortable when they're at City Hall. And when they interact with me in general, I feel like everyone should feel welcome to talk to me, welcome to be at City Hall. And I think that that conveys over to your work and the places you go, whatever your business. You know, you don't want to make people feel like unrefined hoydens, even when they are. So after I left the Conservation Corps to work at Davy Laboratories, I was asked by then Mayor George Osterhout to serve on the Onalaska Park and Recreation Board. It just felt like a completely natural transition. I already was very vested in our parks. I had a strong relationship with a lot of the city staff, who I still have relationships, you know, fast forward X amount of years. So there, anyways, I started to participate in the decision-making process and learn about what the people on the city council did. So it wasn't too long before my name was on the ballot, right? So I'm just talk a little bit about campaigning and elections. I think that's something you're probably all pretty passionate about. So just kind of seeing it from my viewpoint. It was really hard for me as a young professional, a wife, a mother, to campaign. Like in addition to just the logistics of it, I was very uncomfortable knocking on someone's door and asking them to vote for me. Their number one question, why should I vote for you? Right. So I hadn't heard of servant leadership then. But I mean, that's just the question. That's the difficulty with being a servant leader, is how do you answer this question? I knew wasn't going to go around town bragging about how great I was, right? I still struggle to try to find a way to share my experience, you know, while maintaining that humility. And like I said, I'm very honored to be asked to speak here today, but yet I still continue to internalize, like, how do I articulate my experience and my unique viewpoint with all of you while remaining servant? And the strategy that I learned was to talk about something that anyone can relate to. And in my case, it's our community. It's something we all share. And then talk about the projects and the priorities that I have supported in my relationship with our community. And I think one of the noteworthy accomplishments during my tenure as mayor, is the cities of La Crosse and Onalaska finalizing the long-term sewer agreement. And the previous contract expired in 2019 when the negotiations just broke off, and the new agreement provides structure for how our two communities will work together for the next 20 years. And although it didn't really rate as a big news event, it was very anticlimactic. I really felt it should have been, because the cost of any other solution was literally millions of dollars and probably years of litigation. But what changed in order to have that happen? The leadership changed. We had two new mayors. Respectful communication happened. And looking at this through the lens of servant-led institutions, this is a challenge we all face. Sometimes, despite our best individual hopes and efforts, none of the available choices are acceptable. And we need to find a way to navigate our organizations through that. And none of us can do it alone, no single person at all. So last fall, we had the first Onalaska Informed Citizens Academy. And this was something that I wanted to facilitate to help citizens learn more about all the things our local government does. Our city staff was excited to have an opportunity to share their passion for our community and get to know more of the residents. And I already knew that when they got out from behind the scenes and into the public eye, our citizens would see how blessed we are and those who are serving them serving our city. I mean, that's what a lot of the feedback was like, oh, they didn't realize how well-spoken and professional city staff was. I'm like, come on, how could you not know that? But that was the whole point, right? So, and the citizens, besides that, the citizen students experienced a humanizing of our institution. For example, they learned what goes on behind the scenes in an election. And this was a great success in the battle against misinformation. And the Citizens Academy, the O Academy, continues. Our next scheduled session focuses on the police department and is July 14th. We've done this one on the police department before, and it's very popular. They like to break it up into stations, and it could be, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but last time they had Miri, our police dog, do a demonstration. We went through a police vehicle to see all the things there, which is really a lot more interesting than it sounds on the surface. And then our investigators showed a lot of the equipment that they use for investigations. And then there was also a tour. So very interesting. If you're interested in that, the police department is advertising it as a Facebook event, but it's going to be limited to 30 people. We're assuming that it will fill up. So maybe just shoot me an email and I can shortlist you onto it. All I just need is your name and a email address or something. Anyway, so another rewarding project, just one last one that I was able to be a part of recently, was nominating one of our police investigators, Pete Chakowski. I mean, maybe some of you even know him, but he was our 94th Assembly 94th Assembly District First Responder of the Year. And from the nominees, he was selected and presented the award by Steve Doyle down in Madison. We have so many hometown heroes. It was really hard to just pick one to nominate, but it was also nice to have good people recognized in such a big way. And, you know, he's nearing retirement. I really feel like this is like really momentous in his life. So that was a good thing. Made me feel good. We can talk about all these things, the sewer agreement, the Citizens Academy, our great city employees who are public servants. And in talking about these, you can learn a lot more about me. So just a few final thoughts on election, and then I can just open it up to questions if you have any. A few final thoughts on election. So in order to win a Democratic election, a candidate needs to win 50% plus one of the votes. That's why every one vote matters. And I can't think of any election where the candidate got every vote, nor are they normally expected to in order to win in a democracy. And secondly, all votes are equal, whether it's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company or an 18-year-old high school student voting for the first time. Their votes are equal, but it only counts if you use it. So, servant leadership is a journey. It's true for us as individuals as well as our institutions. We are imperfect, we are flawed, we make mistakes, but we also can learn and strive for continual improvement within ourselves and our organizations. I hope that in sharing some bits of my journey with all of you, that I can inspire you. I hope that on the day when you look around the room for a strong leader, someone who can help lift your institution to better serve the common good, that you also look within yourself to see if you are that person. Are you called to serve? Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. That's really interesting. I have a question. Do you think that because of the presence of this program and Viterbo, do you think that there is a sense that there's more collaboration in the greater La Crosse area? Is this more foundational to us when we're living in such divisive times? I was thrilled when I saw that that agreement had been reached between the two cities with respect to the water treatment plant. I mean, because it just makes so much sense. But sometimes I don't know if it's egos or power or whatever kind of gets in the way. And I'm just wondering kind of what your thoughts are. Do you think this is unique, or do you see this happening elsewhere?
Well, I mean, it's difficult for me because I've been I grew up in Onalaska, and I've never really left. I only left a few years to pursue a different job. And I can remember while I was in that position thinking to myself that my organization I was working for and my coworkers could benefit from a bit of gratitude as a value. I don't know if that's related or not, but I do think servant leadership is really well known around here. And I think we can, mostly thank the Skogans for that. As soon as they've learned about servant leadership and got connected with Jim Hunter, like he's done nothing but promote it and been a really big asset to servant leadership in our community. And now, I mean, I feel like it's pretty common in all, Gunderson, the healthcare centers. It just feels like it makes sense to me. So I don't know why everyone wouldn't be doing it everywhere.
I would open it up to other board members. If you have questions, I don't see questions coming in from the audience, but I'm not sure that actually has been activated. So I would give and other people an opportunity to ask a question. Because I have more. And I don't want to keep you forever.
No, I'm good. I have plenty of time. Whatever you want me to do.
Well, and I was just going to ask kind of if you could see partnership opportunities with the league as it comes to, upcoming elections, informing voters, election integrity, can you think of ways that we as an organization can help your community and other communities kind of beyond what we're doing now? And I guess if you had any thoughts, I guess we would welcome that conversation with you.
Sure. Well, we did have, as you know, Robin, concerns with the census and the redistricting. And then as long as we were redistricting in Onalaska, we also did some adjustments to our polling locations, which we had wanted to do. And that's something where we all have to work together to have uniform messaging out to the community. I think, one of the biggest problems that we all face is that in today's society with social media and quick access to unsubstantiated facts, you can't even have a legitimate argument with someone, a meaningful discussion, because you can't agree on the truth. Rick Kite from Viterbo will tell you in his ethics classes, like in order, the great philosophers, the first step in having a discussion is determining what is the truth, the facts of the situation. Once you gather up all the facts, then you can start to move on to a deeper discussion. But in our society today, we can never get past that because we don't even know what the facts are. So I think that definitely all of us need to work together to make sure that we're sending a unified message to kind of reinforce what the truth is. And the truth is that in the United States, our election system is solid. It's not broke. Of course, there's isolated incidents, but statistically, it's not true.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you personally for joining us tonight. And who knows, we might have you back for more programs in the future. But really, I think your words are very uplifting and make me feel like, there is hope. Sometimes we're bombarded with all these negative messages, and it's just really great to see your leadership and it being actually happening, that your commitment to the community and your commitment to truth and to engagement and participation and trust and all of the Boy Scout, Cub Scout values. It's just heartwarming. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well,
Robin,
yeah.
excuse me, there's a question from the audience right
Oh.
now, and I'm wondering if, and it's
Oh.
kind of an interesting one.
Go ahead and read it, Mary.
One of our attendees asked, do you think being a woman leader opens up different issues or offers new perspectives?
That is probably one of the most common questions that I ask, just different things in aspect to being a woman. And let me just start by saying that, first of all, I think that the reason why traditionally there is less women like in leadership, leadership positions anywhere, whether it's government or not, is just that it's just a choice that women make. Because if you already have a career and you have a family and you have children, you don't want to make the choice to not spend that time with your family and in your home. And so in my case, I just was very fortunate to have a lot of support from my family, and I have all my family here, my parents and my husband's parents. And so I have a lot of support at home, and and I have been able to pursue involvement in local government to a level that most other women just don't choose to do because their family is coming first. And that isn't wrong. That's just, how it is for people. But definitely I have different perspectives. And I think that, getting through, I'll say the early years on Alaska, if you look back, from the beginning of time until about 10 years ago, it was all old retired men like that. There's no sugarcoating what it was. And so I think it takes a bit of um, patience and thick skin to try to get through that, to realize that your perspective isn't going to be able to be with the majority, and it's a voting system. So just kind of learning to build relationships with those people, even if they were a lot older than me and a lot more conservative in a lot of ways, just because they were older and men probably. But that's important because you have to learn how to build relationships with everyone. And you can't assume that your viewpoint is the right one because each of us has a unique viewpoint, every single person, whether you're a man or a woman or old or young or culturally from a variety of places. So I think that, maybe what it is that I don't know if it's part of being a woman or just part of being myself, is just having that empathy to see the world through a different person's eyes. And I think that's become even more important to me now that I became mayor and all of this political decisiveness has kind of happened. I feel like as the mayor, I'm not really representing my own opinion anymore. I feel like I'm trying to represent the community's opinion, which includes a lot of diverse things. So when different items come up, I try to think, okay, what are all the viewpoints of this? How does this serve everyone? Where are the advantages of it from all the angles? Not necessarily pushing forward with my own agenda, but trying to make sure that what I'm pushing forward is serving the community and the least among us and the whole community. That's what needs to be figured out, not what I personally want to do. I might find out that isn't, even though I think that in my head, the community doesn't support it. So I don't know, it's just some thoughts on that topic.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Kim. Well, listen, you're welcome to stay with us, but I think we're going to move on to the rest of the program. And again, thank you so much. It was really nice hearing from you.
Thank you. And don't be afraid to any of you just to reach out to me. I'm super easy to track me down. Right? Nobody seems to have a problem getting a hold of my phone number or email. It's on the city website. So I'll just leave you with that. And thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate the work you're all doing too.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go back to my screen share here. All right. Let me get this. There we go. All right. So thank you again. Thank you to Mayor Smith for that really nice conversation. As you know, the bulk of the work that we do here at the League at the local level is done through our committees and the volunteers who lead and serve on those committees. I'm always in awe of the energy, the commitment, the support for the mission of the League, and the contributions that so many make to us and to the greater La Crosse community. We welcome any and all members who support. If you are able to serve on a committee, I just want you to know that you're always welcome. And even though everybody's busy, that saying that it takes a village applies here as well. And we have a lot of really very impressive people who are supporting all the work we do. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chris Haskell. Chris, you can unmute yourself, and you're going to lead off with giving us a summary of the voter services information.
Thank you, Robin. I am very happy and proud to be talking about the Voter Services Committee. I would like you to please focus on the screen at the names of each individual person, because although I'll be talking to you about what we do, these are the folks that get it done. The mission of the Voter Services Committee is to educate about voting, and that includes registering. We had a bit of a COVID cloud over the 2021-2022 league season, but we were still able to accomplish a lot. For example, in the fall, we were invited to 3 outdoor UWL events and 1 at Viterbo. We were also invited into a women's studies class at UWL. That was a first for us, and it was fun to talk about the history of the League of Women Voters, which of course parallels closely the history of women getting the right to vote. In the spring, we took our terrific program into area high schools, and we also tabled at Earth Fair, which we had a lot of traffic there. That was a good event for us also. And there's one thing that COVID doesn't affect, that's the putting up of our Everyone Vote signs. So I know you've seen them all over town. We have a crew of people who put up over 75 signs. And that doesn't count the ones that hopefully you all have in your house that you put out right before an election to remind people that an election is coming up. We had some new adventures this year that were exciting. We now work in the jail. So in La Crosse County Jail, we work with Project Proven. They teach a community resources class, and we have been invited in twice to talk to the folks in the jail about their rights to vote, the history of voting. And we're very lucky that the person who is in charge of programming in the jail will then work with us to register and get absentee ballots for those in the jail who would like to vote. We're also part of a statewide program. It's a coalition, including the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, called Clerk Engagement. In La Crosse, we've had a great relationship with the city clerk kind of always. And so really all we do is feed in information of what we're already doing, but we also have now started an engagement with the Onalaska clerk, and we hope to grow that out to other area clerks. And later, Jean will tell you about another new adventure we're having. So one of the reasons I'm happy to do this is because it's always nice to take a minute to look back at all the stuff that you've been doing through the year and to be proud of that. We don't do that. It's not only Voter Service Committee members, but we have many organizations that we work with throughout the area, and we get grants. So for example, right now we have a La Crosse Community Foundation grant and a League of Women Voters US grant that helps us do the work we do. So our kind of motto slogan on the signs and just in general is everyone vote. We take that very seriously and very literally until there's 100% voting in the La Crosse area. We have not met that goal. So come and join us, come and work with us. We, as Robin said, we welcome everyone. And we'd love to have you help us achieve some new and exciting things we're going to be doing in the next go round. And I am now going to turn it over to Martha Linville, who's going to unmute and tell us about Vote 411.
Hello, my name is Martha Linville, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vote 411. So Vote 411 is an online resource offering voters an insight into what individual candidates believe. I thought it was interesting as Mayor Kim Smith was speaking, because we actually began, and the year that she ran for mayor was our first election cycle. So I feel kind of connected to her. Each election cycle, though, an online voter guide is produced. Here at the local level, we produce the guide for the races that run within La Crosse County. The state league takes care of the candidates that run at the state level, which can include races that only involve a couple of counties, but that takes it to the state level. And then the National League, of course, does all those races that are only at the National League. Dedicated volunteers contact candidates, and those candidates are sent questions to answer. The answer to those questions is printed verbatim in our guide. Voters can go to the website at vote411.org, and by entering their street address, they are provided candidates and referendum information that will appear on their ballot when they vote in the next election. Sometimes it's hard to know who your candidates are going to be if you're not sure exactly what district or what ward you live in. So Vote 411 takes that information and gives you those candidates. Candidates are encouraged to participate in our online voter guide, even if they run unopposed, in order to introduce themselves to more of the constituents that they will have after the election. What is more important than knowing your elected officials and what they believe? The major tenets of the League of Women Voters is empowering voters and defending democracy. This online guide helps with that. In the spring of this year, volunteers of your local league contacted over 100 candidates in both county and city elections. This fall, we will have a much smaller election. We have La Crosse County Clerk of Court and the La Crosse County Sheriff to cover. The volunteers on this committee are Mary Nugent, Jane Powell, Pam Thiel, Nora Garland, Jay Johnson, Jan Gallagher, and myself. Many of those people on this committee wear other hats within the league. If you feel this committee is something you would like to help with, or any of the areas that you hear about tonight, please contact us through the website or personally. We would be more than happy to work with you. We always welcome new volunteers. The League of Women Voters of this area also provides candidate forums for our voters. I would like to introduce Ellen Franz, who is the moderator for these forums. Ellen, would you please unmute and tell us more about candidate forums?
Sure. Thank you, Martha. As I was listening to Kim earlier, I was reminded that I moderated a live debate because this was just before COVID started. Mary, I think you were our timekeeper, if I remember correctly. It was all three people running, so it would have been the race in February, before it was winnowed down to just two candidates for the April election. But I very much remember listening and presenting questions from the audience to those three candidates for mayor in Alaska. So forum, there is no usual number. This past year, we did 2 school board forums. And they were challenging. We did virtual forums in both the case of Holmen and La Crosse. Unfortunately, as you probably recall, those races were extremely partisan. There were, I think, 8 candidates for La Crosse School Board, and 3 of them opted not to participate at all. So, we offer and invite everyone to come to participate in a forum, because that's informing voters as to who the candidates are. That's what we're about. And the 5 that did indicate they were interested in participating were presented in a forum. For Holmen, we had the same issue, at least up until half hour before the forum was to start, where there were 2 candidates for school board that didn't respond, and we'd heard through the grapevine they weren't going to participate. Well, it turns out both did. Yay! I mean, the voters in Holmen had the opportunity to listen to the views of all the candidates for school board. Because we did it virtual, we have a certain number, of course, that shows up at the time of the actual presentation, which is live, but it's also available for anybody to watch later and learn about the candidates. And I don't know how many people might have watched later by accessing either our website or YouTube or the school board's site. But if I remember right, there were 90, 100 some people that were listening in for the La Crosse School Board. So it is an important part of what we do to help educate voters. Our challenge, of course, going forward, even for local nonpartisan elections, is to work on convincing those who don't believe that we're truly nonpartisan in terms of what we do for voters and forums. Continue that fight, because I don't see that changing in the near future, and I hope it does someday, but that's where we are. So it continues to be a challenge. And Mary Nugent, of course, a couple years ago developed a timing mechanism when we're doing it virtual. There's a box. Instead of seeing me, for example, you'd see the clock numbers ticking down. It works wonderfugly, and it's a good addition to our tools, thanks to Mary. So I'll introduce Mary Nugent now, who's going to give us highlights of the program planning and the programs that were presented this past year.
Thank you, Ellen. Well, once again, COVID meant our programs were virtual. So we, the program committee, planned an educational season that reflected issues that impacted our community. With the coming year in mind and the wish for some normalcy, we tried to keep to our second Tuesday of the month schedule. We also continued the practice of having a letter to the editor preceding each program to invite the public and to explain the league's stance on each subject. Using the Zoom format allowed us to be both live and to record all events to make them available for a larger audience. Live Zoom participant numbers range from 20 to 96, about the same or much better than our in-person lunch and learns. Using Zoom also allowed us to have larger panels of experts from across the state. To recap our year, we were to begin with the celebration of the 100th anniversaries of the 19th Amendment and the formation of the league with New York City jazz pianist David Mark and bass player Karen Quinn. But unfortunately, COVID decided not yet, and that event had to be canceled. So I guess we're going to have to just wait until La Crosse has their 100th anniversary in just a few years. So we started out our season in September, where panelists discussed La Crosse's Criminal Justice Management Council. Then in October, we kept to the justice theme with how our policing system works, featuring Sheriff Jeff Wolf and Chief Sean Coudron. November saw a panel of local experts discussing the issue of homelessness in the La Crosse area. But then in December, we took a break from serious subjects to learn about the cultural events celebrated in La Crosse during the winter. But in January, it was back to league business with our most attended program, Lessons Learned from Election 2021, with La Crosse County Clerk Ginny Dankmeyer and Wisconsin Election Commission Executive Megan Wolf. January also saw a first for us when we hosted a virtual fireside chat and question and answer program with Mayor Mitch Reynolds. Because of all of the recent public focus on schools and school boards, we wanted February to feature local school board presidents and learn what they had to say about the rewards of being on a school board and what school boards actually do. In March, we had two programs. We were sponsors of International Women's Day, And we also hosted a lunch and learn celebrating women's history with Dr. Jody Vandenberg Dave's discussion on how feminism affects our lives. April brought Earth Day, started by our own Senator Gaylord Nelson. So our final lunch and learn of the year, we featured a panel on climate change actions in the urban, suburban, and rural Cooley region. This one was super interesting, and I encourage you all to go back and view those. So all in all, our program year, in my opinion, was very successful and fulfilled our mission of educating voters and defending democracy. If you missed any, they are all recorded and available on our website or YouTube channel. I would like to thank all of the committee members for their hard work and great ideas. Thank you to Maureen Kinney, Nancy Hill, Barbara Soderin, Ellen Franz, and Robin Schmidt. We're always looking for more members and new ideas, so please consider volunteering to help with the planning of the coming year. It's our hope that in the 2022 to 2023 program year, we will be face-to-face again and again offer lunch. For those who cannot or do not wish to attend in person, we are planning on offering a hybrid format where presenters and or attendees may be live or appear via Zoom. In addition, all events will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel. Thank you all for your support and your attendance for this year's programs. And now, Jean Hammonds is going to report on a new program committee, our Observer Corps. Jean, would you unmute, please?
Can you hear me? Great. Thanks, Mary, and good evening, everybody. Right about this time last year, some voter services members decided to revive our league's Observer Corps program. The Corps is a group of volunteers who attend public meetings of governmental organizations like the La Crosse Common Council or a particular school district's school board. Chris Haskell is our committee chair. The slide on your screen shows the groups that have been observed, as well as the names of league observers. The purpose of Observer Corps is to learn what organizations are doing. Equally important is the processes they employ as they conduct business. So this program actually promotes three important league principles: openness, transparency, and accountability. Volunteers don't participate. We just observe and write short reports. These reports are posted on our league website. To give you an idea of what volunteers have observed this past year, here are just a few examples. We've observed discussions to resolve issues like zoning requests, budgets, complaints. We've also followed long-range planning, including the drafting of our county's comprehensive plan for the future. We've learned about the urgent need for more staff to assist people dealing with drug abuse and mental health issues. We've noted the ways in which various organizations accept and solicit community input. We've had the opportunity to gauge the effectiveness and the ethos of the groups we've observed. And we've seen firsthand the effort and commitment of many people across government who work hard to make a positive difference. Now, with more volunteers, we could observe additional organizations. So we're wondering if any of you listening in might have an interest in an organization that's not yet being observed. The La Crosse Public Library, perhaps, or the school board of another district. Yuck, you're thinking. Attend meetings, write reports. That is not appealing. Well, that was my initial thought too. But watching government in action here in La Crosse has been engaging and stimulating for me. So I highly recommend this opportunity. If you'd like to learn more, you can reach out to any member of the Observation Corps Committee. One final note, should you decide to volunteer, you'll get one of these nice, shiny, magnetic badges. Okay, let's go now to Maureen Kinney and Book Club. Maureen will unmute and share book club highlights. Thank you.
I can't get unmuted.
We can hear you, Maureen.
Okay, sorry. So this is rather short and hopefully sweet. This is a fun group. It's not even a committee. It's not even necessarily a group, because some people come on a real regular basis and some people kind of come in and out, and that is perfectly fine. So I don't actually remember when we started this. It was very informal in about 2016 or 17. But if you go on the website, and in order to find the books that we have read, if you ever are missing or not sure what you want to read, go on our website, the League website, look under Engage on Issues, and then drop down under Book Club Lists, and you will see the 8, 10, 12 books that we have read each year. In the past, we were more informal. We have now decided to meet on the last Monday of the month. Since COVID, unfortunately, we have been meeting, fortunately and unfortunately, we've been meeting by Zoom. We have reviewed or seen somewhat the same history, in the sense that we have actually had sometimes more members on Zoom than we would have. We had been meeting at Java Vino, and we kind of overflowed their little conference room. So we read fiction, nonfiction, mostly nonfiction. Some of it we've said is darn depressing, and that's why we have to go on to maybe a little bit more poignant, but fiction. We, meaning the people that show up, choose what we want to read for 1 to 2 months in advance. So it's not real formal, it's not rigid, it's pretty free flowing. We are meeting in hopefully June, July, and August at the by the International Gardens down in Riverside on the north end. And I just want to note that my helpers have been for the last years, Karen Kroll and Barb Roberts. Thanks. Oh, and then the next person to unmute will be Kathy Molnar.
Hi. When I started in doing membership, I had the ambition of, okay, we need to grow the league. Well, you can see by this chart how well it didn't work the first year. However, since then, we are really on a good trajectory. This past year, we had 161 members, which was 23 secondary members, or an additional to the household, 100 primary members, and 3 students, and 12 life. I'd like to take a minute to talk about the 12 life, because in order to get to be a lifetime member, you have to have 50 years into the league. Well, that would require me to be about 130 before I ever got my lifetime, and I'm not going to be there. So these 12 people have dedicated a total of 600 years of service to the League of Women Voters. In addition, we had 26 new members this year. And for those of you that don't know it, we've already started the membership drive. Unfortunately, the link didn't work in the email. So just go to our website and click on renewal. We've already renewed about 33 members and 2 new student members. So we've got a good start on it. Your membership ends a year at the end of June. So it doesn't matter if you do it a few days ahead of time. And just thank you for allowing me and trusting in me to be on this board. It's been a wonderful experience. Now, Nora Garland, who is the communication director, web guru, and I'm going to ask you to unmute and give your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. I'd like to begin tonight by recognizing our communications team. Please take a look at the slide. I'll even stay quiet for a minute or two so that you can process all of those names. One of, I think, the real achievements of the COVID era is that it forced us to think about how to do what we do online. And as a result, we've built a wonderful team of individuals. And we're so fortunate to have all of this talent dedicated to helping us expand League's outreach and visibility. So this is a real team effort that I'm going to share with you tonight. Let me give you a quick peek behind the curtain at all that went into our League's communications last year. Our team members meet regularly via Zoom and email to collaborate on content, both written and visual. We've added a lot of graphic arts to our communications this year. We have many communication platforms that we produce that content for. We post several times a week on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, frequently update our content on the website. We publish a news update twice a month, write op-eds and letters for local newspapers, and publicize League events through press releases, community calendars, and flyers are emailed to area organizations. You can see why we need a team to get all of that work done. We also contributed to 2 new projects for our League this year, a collaboration with the La Crosse Tribune on the Why I Vote feature. Thank you, League members who are listening to us tonight or watching this, who inspired us with your stories about why you vote. We're going to resume that project in July, so if you haven't written your voting story yet, please consider doing so. Our second new project was the placement of beautiful League bookmarks that promote voting in the 2022 elections in all of the La Crosse city and county libraries. In reviewing our many messages across all those platforms, a handful of themes reoccur and clearly reflect our League's priorities. I counted 6 themes that we just sort of work over and over again in other creative ways. Protecting the freedom to vote for every qualified voter. Promoting resources to inform and engage voters. Countering myths and disinformation about the integrity of our elections, particularly. I thought of that when Kim gave her talk tonight and was glad that we've paid attention to that in our communications. Inviting participation in local government, celebrating the diverse contributions of our fellow citizens, and promoting our own League's work as a nonpartisan champion of democracy. Assuming you also share these priorities, I'd like to invite you to help us amplify them. How can you do that? Like and share our posts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you're on social media, look for us. LWV La Crosse is our tag. And as often as possible, see and touch our posts. That helps us improve our algorithms, they tell us anyway. Read our news updates, please, and share content that you find interesting, useful, or important with your family and friends. Visit our website to see what's new and become acquainted with the resources we've gathered there. And please let us know if you're interested in more actively joining our team. We really do have a great time working together. We get to our brainstorming and writing together sessions, and it's really very enjoyable. If you enjoy brainstorming, writing, editing, or creating graphic images, contact us through our website. We'd love to have your help. Finally, many thanks to all our team members for your generous gifts of time and talent. Together, we tell our League's story and help establish our presence in the La Crosse area as a trusted defender of voting rights and democratic values. Thank you. And instead of turning it over to someone else, I'm going to fill in for Carolyn Jenkins, who wasn't able to be with us tonight. So this next slide is to present our League's involvement in the Upper Mississippi River Region Interleague Organization. That's a mouthful. We call it UMR. Carolyn Jenkins is our UMR representative, but she's not able to be here. So I'll give a little overview. ILOs are interleague organizations. They exist to facilitate cooperation between many leagues who live in a region and want to work together on issues that affect them. In 2015, our lacrosse league, along with the leagues in Dubuque and Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Galena, Illinois, began the work of establishing the UMER ILO. Today, there are over 60 leagues from 4 states in UMER. Carolyn is our representative on the board, which meets every other month, and Nancy Hill is her alternate. UMER's work focuses right now particularly on stormwater treatment, on reducing nutrient pollution, and the rate of climate change, slowing that rate of climate change. The environmental issues page on our website links to UMER's website and carries their Facebook feed, so you can see what they're currently doing by checking that page. Look for it under the Engage on Issues tab on our menu. And thanks to Carolyn and Nancy for their work with UMER, and I'll turn the program back to Robin now.
Thanks, Nora. I'm going to try to advance the slide here. All right. Thank you to everybody who reported. It's just a phenomenal organization and group, and you all are so hardworking and so dedicated. It's just, like I said, awe-inspiring how much work gets done. But I did want to talk a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Many organizations want to ensure that their leadership and membership are reflective of the community they serve, and our league is no different. The league, as an organization, is fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and in practice. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are central to our current and future success in engaging all individuals, households, communities, and policymakers in creating a more perfect democracy. We're committed to making deliberate efforts to ensure that the league is a place where differences are welcomed, different perspectives are respectfully heard, and every individual feels a sense of belonging and inclusion. So how do we do this? Last fall, the board approved the formation of a DEI work group, and we initiated and completed a DEI strategic plan, which outlines specific actions that can be taken by our league in the areas of leadership, membership, programs, and voter services. The board unanimously approved the strategic plan at our April meeting. Actions recommended in the plan are already being implemented. The board approved the expansion of the membership committee to now be the Membership and Inclusion Committee that will be responsible for overseeing the implementation of DEI within our organization, as well as membership services. In addition, as you renew your membership online, you'll see some questions regarding demographics. We can't really assess our organization's diversity if we don't really have data about the diversity of our current members. If you're comfortable sharing that information, we greatly appreciate your answering the additional questions you'll see as you renew your membership online. In addition, as president, I recently appointed a student representative to our board so that the voice of the younger community has a place of leadership in our organization. Morgan Hose, a senior at UW-La Crosse, is pursuing a double major in political science and communication studies with an emphasis in public communication and advocacy, as well as a legal studies minor. She is president of the Pre-Law Society and a senator for the College of Arts, Social Studies, and Humanities in Student Association. And she's going to be the next executive editor for the Racket Press. While she's going to have a full plate, we anticipate her engagement and her voice on our board will set the stage for future engagement and further engagement with our youngest voters. If you're interested in being part of our Membership and Inclusion Committee and want to help further implement our action plan, let me know. Love to chat with you about your interests. So speaking of helping, I want to highlight the financial help that we've had through a number of different venues, both end of year donations, additional donations that are made at the time of membership renewal, and other donations made to our league. We greatly appreciate these donations, and they've really helped driven our actions throughout the community. Donations in any amount expand our ability to serve the community. I want to thank everyone who has donated either your time or your money to the league. We're really grateful, and we're more empowered because of your support. Our membership fees are structured so that a significant amount of those fees goes to assist the league's fight for democracy at the state and national levels through their advocacy, litigation, and policy development. We all benefit from those activities, and they take significant resources, and they have a significant impact across the whole country. The stakes are high these days, and your membership at the local level means that we all benefit. At the local level as well, volunteers drive our work, as you've heard over the last hour, and we've been really successful at getting additional funding through community grants, and Chris mentioned that, as well as grants from the State and National League. But we also recognize that we don't work in a vacuum, and our community partners are critical for us to reach a diverse and more expansive audience. I want to recognize the many organizations and partners that we've worked with to help get our message out, especially as it relates to voter services. These partners help us fulfill our mission of empowering voters and defending democracy. We're grateful for all they do for us and with us. And speaking of being grateful, I want to recognize 3 board members whose terms are ending or who are no longer on the board, but who are committed to continuing to help the league in various ways. Kathy Mulliner has been the membership committee chair for many years, and she's embraced the position in a way that no other could. She not only brought her personal touch for reaching out and welcoming members to our organization, but she was our liaison with the US and state leagues as it related to membership management. Our membership, as Kathy said, continues to grow and thrive, and we would not be where we're at now without Kathy's commitment to the league and to the needs of our new members. And I'm just so grateful, Kathy, for everything that you've done for us. Ellen France, as you heard from also, has been a member of the league since 1985, and she's served twice as president from 89 to 91 and from 2015 to 2016. Ellen's brought legal insights into many aspects of our organization, including providing legal and court ruling updates and moderating our candidate forums. While we're letting her resign from the board, we're not totally unleashing her. She has been gracious to indicate she'll continue to help with forums and in other ways as needed. Thank you, Ellen, for your expertise and your service and your commitment to the league. And then lastly, Mary Nugent. She's been our past president. She joined the league in 2012 and most recently served as president for 2019-2021. I asked Mary if she would be willing to serve on the board for an additional year as my appointee as past president because of all of the things that she learned while serving as president. And she thankfully she agreed. And she was chair of our program committee. And as you heard, we had an outstanding program year this past year. She's done an exceptional job at bringing us highly regarded speakers on topics of great interest to our community, as you heard. When we wanted the latest information on election integrity, Mary went right to the top and asked Megan Wolf, executive administrator for Wisconsin Elections Commission, to be our speaker. And she said yes. Mary did this without even batting an eye. Her time and efforts are so greatly appreciated. I'm also grateful that she has also said she'd be willing to continue to serve on committees and work with us, although she won't be serving on the board. So Mary, thank you for all you've done and continue to do for our league. Change in leadership in this organization is also an opportunity to bring in different perspectives, as we're doing with Morgan. I also wanted to extend a warm welcome to Deborah Buffton, who I also have appointed to a one-year term on the board, and I look forward to her insights and perspectives as we continue to work on our mission and vision. So before we get to our ballot questions, I want to close by commenting that times continue to be challenging in many ways. I'm deeply concerned about threats to our democracy, threats to women's rights, to the safety of our children. And at times I feel a range of emotions, from helplessness to frustration to anger. I know that now is not the time to sit back and be silent. Now more than ever is a time to unite, to build on our strengths, to advocate and educate, and to make our community, our state, and our nation a stronger democracy for all. It gives me great strength to know that the League, as a 100-year-old institution, is considered a foundation in our community, and focusing energy into the League brings me great satisfaction and joy. It's a family of caring, dedicated, and committed individuals, and I thank you all for being part of that family. And like most families, who doesn't enjoy ice cream in the peak of summer? So please put Sunday, August 21st on your calendar for a member ice cream social at the Meyer Park Shelter. We'll be getting more information out on that soon, but it will be an opportunity to see people in 3D rather than on Zoom, and to just get to know each other and to reinforce, the joy that we bring to each other through the work we do through the league. So now on to the ballot questions. I'm going to stop sharing here. And Mary will go ahead and launch the ballot survey. Thank you all for voting on the survey and for making the elections help us get our business done that needs to be done. And I hope you all have a wonderful summer, and I look forward to an exciting year to come. Don't leave yet. Please answer the questions here that you'll see on your screen, and we'll give you a few minutes to do that. I think we'll give folks another half minute or so to finish up. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful summer. I look forward to seeing everyone in August. I'm looking forward to some nice cold ice cream and chats, and I hope you all are well and enjoy the summer. Thank you and have a great evening. Bye-bye.